did?
It really is just the competitiveness stood out. I know after the game, we talked through it a little bit, but just the level that he stepped up, to was impressive. He showed that through practice, but you could really see in a game that he elevated his game, and even to a higher level than we've seen, at times in practice. That was fun to see. So the O-line and the group there, he kind of, again, keeps it light at times too. So he's kind of got that way about him where guys like to be around him. He can still keep the sideline kind of calm and cool. And now he'll get excited once in a while too, first start and all that stuff. But he handled himself really well. I think he's a really good leader for our group, and our O-line obviously does a really good job with that leadership role. But yeah, I don't know if I've seen a kid take as many hits, as he did, get back up and put his helmet back on and let's roll. So that was impressive.
What did you learn from him now that you've seen him live?
Just from a game standpoint, he really elevates his game, and he wants to score points and he wants to win, and he's not afraid to go make plays. He really sees things pretty well, and I don't know, it's more of just his confidence and his attitude, that you can see out there. He's obviously a tough football player.
When you watched the film, how was the decision making through the game?
There was ups and downs, but for the most part, he did a lot of good things. He did a great job being under pressure and duress, and give it credit, their defense. They were very athletic, they were big, they were physical, they were fast, and obviously got to him a couple times. But he's through that game kept coming back and kept working, and he we felt like after evaluating him, there were some mistakes, but the leadership and the confidence and the toughness overcame a lot of that.
How do you weigh wanting him to hang in there and obviously as long as he can, but also don't want him to get hit that much? How do you kind of weigh that? It's got to be tough to see. You want him to stay in there as long as you can, but you obviously don't want him to be on the ground as much as he was.
Yeah, and that's some of it's communication. So it's just one-on-one things and stuff like that. And some of it's he's holding on to the ball a little bit too long too. So we want to get the ball out, and use some protections that give him some advantage, to be able to see things. And but yeah, really we got to be smart in what we're doing, and obviously we want to keep him upright and so he can continue to keep playing.
From Hank's perspective, what do you think maybe your top one or two things he may have learned from this first start to take into Marshall Friday night?
Just from a game speed standpoint, and that experience is huge. Obviously they're flying around and he's flying around, and he did a lot of things with his feet and scramble drill and making plays and finding work that way. But I think just from a college football standpoint, what it takes with the timing and the anticipation, and the holes are a lot smaller and tighter windows, and so his urgency and anticipation have got to be really good. And so I think that was a little bit of an eye-opener for him, but he also stepped up his game too, with it.
When you talk about with preparation, you use that word a couple times with him. What does that entail in terms of, when you think about that with him?
There's a lot that goes into the quarterback position. It's not just finding the open guy and making throws. In our offense, there's shifts, motions, and timing with it, and where guys need to be, and snap points for certain things, and just it's pretty detailed. And so when you're going into a short week like this with a detailed game plan, it can be overwhelming at times too. And so we got to be smart as coaches of what we're putting in and how much we're putting on him. But for him and for that quarterback position, it's there's just so much that goes into that preparation. So he does a good job with getting into the quarterback room, watching extra film, a lot like Brett did. Sometimes he'll be more, at his house and watching on his iPad a little bit more. But he's one of those guys that really needs to process it, but he does a good job with it. But as far as he needs to see it and visualize it before sometimes he kind of clicks. So.
I would assume red zone's an emphasis for you this week. When you looked at it, what bogged you guys down in that part of the field?
Just missed on a couple things. There were a couple penalties that took us out a little bit. Missed on a couple throws, a couple protection issues. So we just got to clean it up. We got to be more precise in the red zone, and at the end of the day, we want to pound it in there too. So we want to use the run game, but also keep a team off balance, down there as well. But it comes down to execution, putting points on the board and scoring touchdowns.
There's good and bad when a true freshman plays as well as Hank did the first time. So how do you coach against the hype moving forward, or does he kind of take care of that himself?
He's done a really good job with it. He's not a big egotistical kid, so he's been very smart about, I guess, how he handles himself and around the team and around the guys and in meetings. And he's been even more focused. And again, sometimes he does tend to get a little goofy at times, and that keeps him on that game side of things and just kind of having fun and not getting too tight. But at the same token, he is very concerned with preparing and making sure he knows the ins and outs of each play. And so there's a lot on his shoulders, and I think he likes that.
I asked you after the game about Rob, but to have him do what he did with the chance that he was given, how impressive was that, and what does that do for you guys offensively when if you're able to count on Rob and the running game in general to do what they did?
Yeah, the running game's always huge, and Rob's a huge part of that. Obviously, our O-line is doing a great job moving the line of scrimmage, but Rob is one of those guys that's really been consistent for us. You can trust him, and he's running hard, and he's breaking tackles, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he's a very versatile back. But again, it's pretty cool to see him make those strides and do what he did in the offseason, and he's becoming a real good player and a real good leader for us.
As physically demanding as last week was, what do you look for this week to make sure your guys are where they need to be, and how much of a challenge is that for these guys? A short week coming off of something like that.
It is a challenge, and you saw that a little bit yesterday with that first real practice back out there, and it's like, all right, you got to kind of push them a little bit to go, okay, we're back on the blue, okay, game's coming, fellas, game's coming. So it's a little bit of that urgency and almost a little bit of that paranoid, feeling of like, hey, guys, we don't have time to, we don't have all the off season to prepare for this game. We're rolling. So you got to be a little paranoid a little bit. And have that urgency, and we reminded them today for sure. So Marshall's coming in, and they're going to be fired up to play us, and we got to understand that and put our best foot forward, start fast, and be the physical team.
What do you see from Marshall? What do they do defensively? What concerns you?
They're athletic. They're quick. They're tough. It's a good defense. And they got a good back end. They got some good secondary guys. Obviously, it was hard, tough to see that Mike get hurt in that game, and that's too bad. But they've got good athletes all the way through, and again, they're going to give us their best shot. It's a tough football team, and they're capable, to give us problems. So we've got to be ready for whatever, and I'm sure we're going to see some things we haven't seen on film.